Good morning, everybody. My name is Judy Burgett, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Serve on the worship committee and helping out with the service this morning. We have a few announcements. Our last outdoor service will be on October 31st. The food basket has been moved to the front porch, so for food donations. And next week will be the animal blessing service, weather permitting. And you can bring your pets, whatever you have, your birds or your cats or your dogs or your lizards, whatever.
Husbands? Did you say husbands?
I hope so. Well, I think that's all the announcements, unless anybody else has something. And then we have Steve on with something.
Okay.
Okay, I should stand on those things. Okay. The church reopening committee has decided that yes, we can go ahead and have an auction as long as we do it outside. And Harvey and I are starting to work on this. I'm very excited about it because we haven't done stuff together aside from church service for so long, it seems like. This would be the fourth Saturday in October, which is not the last Saturday, the fourth Saturday in October in the afternoon. We're looking at maybe 2:00. Working out details on how to set it up. Jerry Thornton's working on getting huge event tent from the Boy Scouts, which would make things easier since October weather is usually good here, but no guarantees. What we really need at this point, aside from people marking their calendars and saying, yeah, that sounds like fun, would be, or is, donations. Can't have an auction without donations. Think in terms of, well, the things we've usually done, whatever you're comfortable doing. But we are, NPR says we've hit the peak of infections. I hope they're right. Everything's dropping off. And anyhow, it is on. It will be different because it'll be outside. But we're doing what we can with it. And please, anybody who thinks they'd like to work with us, we need you. We need your ideas. We need your energy. We need your hands helping carry out tables, all that stuff.
Suzanne, are we doing objects as well as events?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, objects as well as events. So that's a good clarification. Yes, so there'll be what we've had in the past, silent auction, tables set out. We're not sure about doing anything live at this point. We really have just started talking about it. So join us and help us figure out what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions, clarifications? Nope. Okay.
Oh, Mary's got one. Mary Levering over there has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. My vision is not perfect. I need to see it.
The theme.
Mary, we haven't gotten as far as a theme. I wish you would come up with one for us. I've come up with them so many across the years that my brain is really kind of run out. And if you would come up with one or two. Yeah, because in the past we've most often had some kind of theme people dress up for, and it's fun. Yeah. And yes, we do plan beer, wine, and soda at the very least.
Awesome. I don't think there are any more announcements, are there?
Reverend Carol will sound our singing bowl.
Thank you. I'm going to make an announcement first. Actually, I'm going to make a couple of more announcements first. So the first announcement is just hi. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Carol, Reverend Carol Boudreau, and I am privileged to serve here as minister. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. This is my own little personal side announcement. If you're interested in eggs from the farm, there's a little cooler over there with a little basket on it. Feel free to take some eggs from the farm. And just a reminder about how the Zoom and the in-person services connect. So hi to everyone who's on our Zoom, who's watching our live stream right now. It's great to have you here as well. Welcome to all those folks, because we are happy to have folks with us both virtually and in person. And starting in November, the reopening committee has voted that we are not at this time planning on coming back inside in person. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 weeks. They meet regularly to keep talking about things and to keep updating. But at this time, the committee and the board are just really concerned about COVID cases. And so for now, we're not making any plans to be together indoors. And what will happen starting in November is that, without a doubt, regardless of how many people are actually an audience in the sanctuary, we will be live streaming a full service at 11 a.m. from the sanctuary, which is a change, because what we're going to actually be able to do now is add some more music in, add some more service elements in, because we'll be in the sanctuary together creating a service. Whether or not we'll have anybody sitting in the chairs watching that service from inside the sanctuary is not yet determined, but we will definitely be doing the services, and they will be a little bit longer, and they will start at 11, our usual service time. So another thing to note is they will not be live streamed on Zoom. They'll be on YouTube. Okay. And we now, as well as then, we have a virtual coffee hour that starts after the service, at the end of the service. Right now, those start at about 11, but once we get inside in November, they'll start immediately after the service. Those will be on Zoom. I know that's a lot of details. You'll be able to find that information on the website and keep track of it through all our social media. Okay, so we'll keep announcing all that. Also, for next week, for the animal blessing, if you're bringing an animal that you're concerned about how well they're going to behave themselves, and that doesn't matter whether that's a snake or a dog or a pigeon or your tarantula, whatever it is, containment is a good idea. So even if your dog is usually off leash, it's a good week to have the leash, just because, as we've seen in the past, it's a lot of animals. It's a lot of animals. All right. Okay. All logistics aside, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath. I'm going to invite you to notice your body. Feel the weight of your body in your seat. Hear the sounds, a little bit of the sounds of traffic, also the sounds of the water. Maybe the sound of your heart beating. Feel the air on your skin. As I invite the bowl to sound, I invite you to just, with each sound, I will sound it 3 times. Just come a little bit more present in this moment, in this place.
Carol will light the chalice, and we have these words by Samuel Trumbore, O light of life. O light of life, be kindled again in our hearts.
Give me some matches.
As we meet together this morning to celebrate the joy of human community, seeking a wholeness that extends beyond ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Judy. Lighting the chalice outside is always a little reminder that not everything goes perfectly on the first try. All right. So today's service is about circles. So our theme for the year, I don't know if we can make this match the auction at all, but it's worth thinking about. The worship theme for the whole year is draw the circle wide. which is about widening our circle of understanding, our circle of care, our circle of acceptance. This is based in the report from our denomination a couple years ago. That's called Widening the Circle of Concern. And it's all about how do we grow and expand our hearts, our understanding, our connections, our communities. So we're going to do some exercises with circles this morning. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk more about what the denomination is actually asking all Unitarian Universalists to do to widen our circles of concern. But today we're going to just start with our own personal circles. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to try this first. Make a circle with your hands. All right. All right, now just imagine what it is that you are capable. Ooh, Suzanne is very creative. Suzanne, show what you just did. Notice that Suzanne did not just make a circle with hands like this. Suzanne which was a bigger circle. So think about that. Think about the different kinds of circles you can make with your hands. And how much can you contain with just your hands? Okay. Now make a circle with your arms. Right? This way, or you can like think of all the different ways you can make a circle with your arms, which is bigger, right? Okay. Now make a circle with your eyes. Maybe we'll do it first without moving your head. Make a circle with your eyes without moving your head. And see how much bigger that sphere is. Like what you can contain or take in. Now do it when you move your head. Go ahead and move your head. Now, if we move our heads, okay. And imagine if you were drawing a circle with your eyes and you could move your whole body, right? You could physically, like, I'm not going to make you do this right now, but what if you could draw a circle with your whole body in movement, right? You can walk around the yard, walk around the property. Okay, now draw a circle in your imagination. And think about what the widest circle is you can draw in your imagination. These are really different, right? What I can hold in my attention right here, this little circle, is a lot smaller than what I have the capacity to hold in my imagination. But let's be honest, where is our attention usually? Right? Our attention is usually like what is right in front of my face, what is right in my hands, what is right in what's the emergency of the moment, right? And also our attention tends to be on what's familiar. So I ask you this question: what's in your inner circle? What and who is your inner circle? The things that are closest to you, the things that you keep your attention on most of the time. Think about that for a second. Okay. Feel free to shout out what's in your inner circle? Family, best friend, what? Home? Did someone say? Phone. Oh, good heavens. Yeah, amen, sister, to that. Right? That's changed our world, hasn't it? Yep. Okay, so we have an inner circle. That's like the thing that we're mostly paying attention to. Now, let's go to another circle. What's your social circle? Think about your social circle. Maybe not the people you think about the most or all the time or the situations, but what's your social circle? Think about that. Who would you add? Who gets added? Co-workers, yeah. Neighbors. Church, thank you, Barry, for saying, yeah, go Barry. Yeah, West Side, right? Okay, those total strangers you might party with, that you met through somebody who met through somebody, right? All right, how about your sphere of concern? What's in your sphere of concern? Students, health, well-being. What else? Climate change. That's a much bigger circle. Yeah. Right. So we have these different spheres. Now I want to ask you to think about this question. We're going to do a little exercise in a minute to help us with this. Think about who's not allowed in your circle. Think about who or what is not allowed in your circle. Right? Because we have those. We have my circle, not my circle. I don't know how many of you are from the generation that I am that remembers the movie Dirty Dancing with great clarity. It's one of those formative movies in my life, right? And there's this great scene in the movie where Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze are dancing, where he's like, my dance space. And he's like, that's your dance space. This is my dance space, right? We all actually have that. This is my space. You are outside of my space, right? And usually that's unconscious. Mostly that's unconscious most of the time. Now, what's interesting is that our lives, anybody remember math class, what a Venn diagram is? Remember what Venn diagrams are? Judy, Linda, could I borrow you for a minute? Come here. We're going to make a Venn diagram. Come here. Stand up. This is all impromptu. They had no warning. Okay. Make a circle with your arms. Okay. Okay. Now we got 3 separate circles. Venn diagrams show us where circles intersect. So I'm going to be here. Oh. And they can intersect differently. We can keep Judy out of our Venn diagram. Okay, you can sit down now. So remember those Venn diagrams? We have all these different ways that circles intersect and do not intersect. Our lives are like that. And West Side, it's really interesting. I have used the idea of a Venn diagram to think about West Side a lot in the last year and a half. Okay, you think about it, even if this applies to your job or your family, right? So we have a number of different circles here at West Side. We have you all. That's the outside group, the people who show up for outside services. And within this group, we have a couple of other different circles, which is the people who've been doing this for years and have been inside, and then newer people who've never been inside the building. So we have a couple groups here. Then we have a group of people, hi Zoom people. We have our online people who've never been to an outdoor service. Like they're a whole separate circle, but they're part of West Side. And then there's an intersecting group between those two, people who kind of do both, right? We have a group of people who are deeply committed to this community, who have never done either of those things, who just said, see you when we're back together and things are normal again, that we talk to on the phone or we check in with. That's another circle in our bigger Venn diagram of West Side. We have the book group. Right? Raise your hand if you're in the circle that is the book group. Right? We've got book group people. We have the people who go to the lunches, the monthly lunches. Who's on the monthly lunch crowd? Right? We have the Thursday evening discussion group. And we have a bunch of people on Zoom who are in some of these circles, right? And we have all these private communities, like friend groups within those circles. So you see what I'm saying is our lives are a whole bunch of these circles intersecting, right? Now, the question is this: how often do you consciously change your circles? Not just by, oh, it happens to us by accident, like, oh, our job changed, or, oh, we moved, or, oh, there was a pandemic, or whatever, where our circles are changed. But we don't really stop to think very often about intentionally creating the circles to match our values. So now I'm going to ask Judy to do another task for me. We're going to pass out a little handout with some pens. So everybody should get a handout. I hope we have enough. I have a few more up here if we do not. Those are all the pretty colors. I have some black and whites in case we run short. On this handout, what you're going to see is the circles of the principles of Unitarian Universalism. So in Unitarian Universalism, we have 7 principles. And these 7 principles are our core values as a community. I'm going to sing you the kids version of the song. I'm not going to repeat the like grown-up version of the 7 principles because it's really long and hard to remember. But the song is really easy to remember. Okay? So the song goes, 1, each person is important. 2, be kind in all you do. 3, we yearn to learn and grow. 4, and seek for what is true. 5, all persons have a vote. 6, work for a better world. 7, the web of earth's our home. And that brings us back to me and you. It's very clever. And it's actually color coordinated because there are 7 principles, 7 circles, and the kids remember them by the colors of the rainbow that Roy G. Biv, okay? And actually this song actually kind of uses those. So what you're getting right now is a representation of those principles. And what I've done is I put words, I've color-coded them. I've color-coded them with the rainbow colors. And I have put some of the words that go with it for each of those principles. So we're going to talk about who you include in each of these layers. Okay? So as you're looking at this, everybody got one yet? We need a couple more. Okay. As you're looking at this, you'll see in the center is the person who's probably in the center of most of our own lives, right? The one person that you cannot get away from, no matter what you do, every single minute of your life, yourself. So the self is always going to be at the center of our attention. Even when we think we're thinking about other people, usually we're thinking about other people because of the way they impact us or interact with us or relate to us. Okay? So now, here's the catch with this. We have these principles that say these are our, as Unitarian Universalists, these are our 7 spheres of concern. These are the 7 circles we're supposed to be paying attention to. The self, the individual, but we have a tendency to think just about ourselves. The actual principle is we covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all persons. So just hold that for a second, okay? The second one is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. So it's how do we do our relationships? Do we do justice, equity, and compassion in our relationships? The third one is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. So learning, ideas, accepting each other's ideas. The fourth is the democratic process and a responsible search for truth. It's freedom and a responsible search for truth. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The next one is the democratic process, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process. Notice how these are getting bigger. Like we honor the individual, we honor relationship, we honor ideas and truths, we honor democratic processes in society, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. So now we're at the world. And finally, in the outermost circle, we've got respect for the interdependent web of all life of which we are a part. Okay, so see how that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger? Now, what I'm going to invite you to do, if you have a pen, on the back, there's a blank circle. And what I'd like you to do is take a minute and write in those circles from each of those spheres, who's in the sphere. And then around the edges, or maybe like in parentheses in that circle or whatever, who's out? Who or what is out of the sphere? So for example, 1, the inherent worth and dignity of all persons. Ask yourself, who's out of that sphere for me? So how do you tell who's in your sphere and who's out of your sphere? The people or things that are in your sphere that we include in our attention, the in things tend to be things that we are comfortable with, that are familiar, that we want, that we like, that we set an intention to embrace, and that we show care and concern to. Okay. Now, what's interesting, if you think about some of the Eastern spiritual teachings, one of my favorite teachers on this is the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, and she talks about how we have a tendency to want the things we want and not want the things we don't want. But a bunch of those teachings are all about how do we learn to be at peace with having things we don't want and not having things we do want, right? So this is a core spiritual teaching around the world. How do we get okay with not having the things in our circles we want in our circles and having stuff put in our circles that we don't want in our circles? So the things we want that are usually in make us feel comfortable and good and familiar. So things that are out, things that we don't want, tend to make us feel discomfort. They're unfamiliar. We tend to reject them. We don't like them. They usually cause us some kind of fear or anger or upset. But the core spiritual teachings from around the world and our very principles tend to say we need to get our circles bigger and include more. So take a minute and on your sheet there, however, if you want to do this or just do it in your mind, or you can at this moment say, Carol, you are no longer in my circle of concern. I'm going to pay attention to the birds. Think about what's in and what's out. Just take a minute to do that. And for those of you who are on Zoom, for those of you who don't have this handout in front of you, I invite you to just think about that. Think about on those 7 principles, what's included and what's excluded. You can write that down or just think about it. Now, as you're doing this, I'm going to throw out a few concepts for you all to think about where they fit in your spheres. And I'm doing this for a reason. It's not just because I want to do it. It's because our denomination is asking us to do it. And we're going to talk about this more in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to ask you where people who use different pronouns than you fit in your circles. People who use pronouns for their gender identity differently than you, where do they fit in your circles? How about different religious beliefs or different theologies? People who see religion very differently than you. How about people who are in a different political party than you? Or people who have different ways of expressing themselves. How about mosquitoes and cockroaches? The web of life is the easiest place to see where we exclude things. Being a farmer, I personally am a big advocate for excluding nothing. So Where do we want to exclude acceptance or the inherent worth and dignity of someone or something? What about the right of conscience? Being Unitarian Universalist is really hard, folks, actually. If you actually live the principles, it's actually really hard. It really is. Like, we tell ourselves it's easy because, like, well, we get to be accepting, except then we have to accept the things we don't want to accept. Because that's actually what our principles are. It's not that we let, like, it's not like a free-for-all, but honor and respect and compassion and all these things actually apply in a lot of places that we would want to exclude them from our circles. So this isn't a test. You don't have to hand that in. Nobody's going to judge you. We all have a natural need to set boundaries. We all have a natural need to decide what we can take and what we can't take, what we can take emotionally in our space and what we can't. And growth comes when we expand. Growth comes when we go a little bit beyond our edges, when we go a little bit beyond our boundaries, when we go a little bit past the familiar. Anybody here ever practiced yoga? Anybody ever practiced yoga? One of the, or really any athletic activity. One of the things we know about human beings and human bodies is that there's an edge, there's a zone where stretching is what you need to do to get stronger and grow. And then there's a place just past stretching where you're hurting yourself, right? Unfortunately for all of us, or blessedly for all of us, Unitarian Universalism lives right in that edgy zone. Philosophically, intellectually, theologically, spiritually, and politically and socially, Unitarian Universalism inhabits the zone of discomfort where growth happens. That's our job. That's what we say we do. That's our commitment and our covenant. We don't live inside comfort. Our actual principles invite us constantly to be going to that, just to that edge, just to the edge of our circle of comfort, just to the edge of the familiar, into the unfamiliar, into the uncomfortable, because that's how we grow. So I invite you to be thinking about that and talking to each other about that and sharing about that, right? In a couple of weeks, like next week, we get to celebrate the expansion of the web of life. Like we will do, not only will we honor the pets that come, but we're also going to honor all sorts of little things out here that maybe we're not so comfortable with. The poison ivy that lives over there under the tree, and the ants that crawl on the picnic tables and bite us when we're trying to have a board meeting, and right? So next week we'll be talking about the web of life, but this whole year is going to be about how we expand our circles. So, and in 2 weeks, we're going to actually talk about what our denomination, our tradition is inviting us to do to draw our circles wider. So for those of you who are here physically in person, we're going to get a chance to actually sing in a second. For those of you who are here virtually on our live stream and our Zoom, I invite you to take a little break. We will be having our virtual coffee hour starting at 11. So for those people, I invite you to, take your little break and come back. For those who are here in person, we are actually going to sing the song, Draw the Circle Wide. So I'm going to invite our musicians to